Hello, everybody. It's time for the gathering room. And here we are, not yet together. But I know the machine is plugging us in together, even though we are connected even without the machine. So while we're waiting for other people to come, I was just thinking how pleasant it is to ponder upon all the bad things that have never happened to us. I was thinking the other day, I remember being in college and being terrified that I would get cancer. And I know some people do get cancer very young, and even little children get cancer. And it's worth thinking about, wow, I have lived this long and not gotten cancer. Or if you have cancer, maybe you lived this long and didn't have a stroke. Or maybe you lived this long and didn't get smooshed in an accident. Like all these things. I never suffered from infertility. Wow. Like there are so many things that haven't happened to me that I'm very grateful for. Now, goody, we've got like 75 people on. It's so good to see you guys. Hi from Vegas. Hi from, I don't know where else. Oh, Don Marie is here for the first time. Nice to see you. Lots of people coming in from all over the country. So, the Netherlands, woot, woot. You skating fools. We love to watch you skate in the Olympics. People here from New Zealand, from Washington, from everywhere. So now that we're here, I want to wish everyone a very, very happy Easter weekend and or a very, very happy Passover or a very happy random day in March if you share none of those beliefs. Just have a really happy time. I had a friend the other day who got a call from someone else saying, I'm celebrating Good Friday. And she began to say, Happy Good Friday. And then remembered what Good Friday was about, Jesus dying. So her response was, I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, so there's a good line for, hello from snowy Canada. There's a good line for people who hear that someone's celebrating Good Friday. But of course on Sunday, it's all good. Out of the grave, you know, all the good things come out and live forever. And that is awesome. However you believe it, metaphorically, literally, it's an awesome thought. So it's 11:03 my time. Ooh, from Sweden, people are coming in. From South Africa, people are coming. Oh my God, you guys, if we could see the globe from space right now and there was a little like bright pinpoint of light wherever one of us is, we would be so all over the place. And that is my secret agenda for this, is to go out and find the people who are willing to build a new culture based on a sort of deep non-religious spirituality, whether you're in a church or not. There's a deep sense of spirituality that guides our actions. And today, I wish to speak a little bit about one of the scarier parts of that. I mean, since we're in the middle of celebrating like massive escape from Egypt or massive, good is killed forever, but then it rises again. It's an interesting time to reflect on taking scary risks. This is what I really love. If you have a piece of paper and a pencil, it's always good to write these things down, which is what that's the whole Ride into Light workshop. But this is not, again, I did one of these last year. I've been thinking these things up by the bushel. And this writing exercise, I just want you to have a pen and a piece of paper handy if you must. But if you don't have it, that's okay, because you can re-listen to this broadcast and get the instructions later. And
can I just say something?
Ro, my sidekick, is going to say something.
I just wanted to say how nice it is to see so many names from people who have signed up for Ride into Light and seeing you here today, and very welcome.
It's so great. And don't worry, this exercise won't reiterate anything in the course. So get your pencil and your paper. Now, put them aside and go through this with me. I want you to imagine that sometime today, you're going to go into a room with no windows, or the curtains are closed. You're going to sit in a comfortable chair, but not lie down, unless you have back problems or something, and then you're going to lie down. But you're going to stay awake, and you're going to sit there without moving, and without any distraction, without falling asleep, without anything. You're just going to sit there for a full hour. Okay, put it on your schedule. If you're a meditator, that might sound great to you, but if just sitting in a room, or take it to a professional setting. Say you're going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to put you in one of those waiting rooms. You're going to put on the stupid paper napkin thing they give you that is meant to embarrass and humiliate all people. And you're going to put that thing on, sit down and wait for the doctor for 1 hour in a tiny room with no distractions whatsoever. This has happened to a lot of us, right? So if you think about that, sitting there for an hour with no distraction, what are you afraid may come up in your emotional senses? So the first thing for many people would be boredom. This is interesting because when I was working with active heroin addicts and I asked them, why do you like rob a liquor store to get money for heroin? Like when you absolutely have to have heroin, what is driving you? Without exception, they said boredom. I don't buy it. Boredom is a cover emotion. And if you meditate, you know this. Boredom is the psyche saying, don't you dare hold still long enough for me to tell you what's really down here. And if you sit in the boredom and you just don't relent and there's nothing to distract you, there's a fear right underneath the boredom. And you can imagine it even without having to do this. So find the fear. And then ask yourself this question. What am I afraid to know? Yeah. Or what am I afraid to feel? These are both really good things. And jot that down. Here's what I'm afraid to know. Here's what I'm afraid to feel. If there's no distraction. Maybe this will work for you right now in real time. Maybe you'll have to do it later. Now, I am going to jump ahead. And I'm going to take you several steps further than this exercise would take you by yourself. When you allow the things you're frightened of to arise, it is always because you have been pulled away from your true self. There is something you love you're not allowing yourself to have, or there's something you hate that you're forcing yourself to do, or there is a feeling that's telling you to change something. And the feeling itself is terrifying. The feeling might be despair, like I need to change something because I am in despair. Or intense anger, I need to change something. There's an injustice in my life. This is not working for me. Or there will be an intense anxiety saying, there's something that needs to, there's something in me or in my environment that has to change. So all these negatives that come up, and this is what these layers come up in meditation, right? What they're doing. If you were an animal, you would never go into denial about those feelings. And denial is what you're in if you don't feel what you're feeling all the time. And an animal that feels something like, ooh, I don't like this place, will leave. Or an animal that says, okay, a dog that knows you've all left home and it wanted to go on a ride in the car, but it didn't get to go, we'll go find a patch of sunlight and sit down and surrender to the situation. Animals don't get into these knots where they're not aware of their own feelings. If they did, they would stray very far from their truth. And when we stray from our own truth, we are basically insane. And all our emotions and even our physical bodies will try to say, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And we just numb ourselves. The reason we go off track more than animals is because, this is my key point, if we did exactly what our inner compasses are telling us to do, we are afraid that someone won't like it. Someone won't like it. The reason we go off our true selves, which is nature, is because of the disapproval or pushback from others, which is culture, right? It's a socialized thing. We never go off our true self except if for the fear that some kind of pushback is going to come from other human beings. So what I want you to write on your piece of paper is, if I were to follow all my true feelings, Here's what blank would do. So here's what Bob would say. Here's what Sally would do. Here's what everybody would think. Here's what my boss would say to me. Every single time you're off your own integrity, it's because of the fear that somebody else will have a negative reaction. And all the denial and all the stuff we push down is because of that moment when we split from our true natures because of the fear of someone else's reaction. And that someone could be everyone writ large, or it could be a specific person, or it could be our family or our spouse or whatever. So now, if you've been following along, and I know this is a complicated exercise, I do it on paper, but I want you to write down who, like I already said, if I were my true self, Bob would do this, or my boss would say that. So as many of those things as come up, write them down. So if I were my true self, I would leave my marriage. And then what would my mother say? What would my ex-husband do, or my ex-wife? What would happen with the kids? Whatever. If I were my true self, I would quit this stupid job. Then what would I say to the people who ask me at a party what I do for a living? Then how would I compete with my brother, or whatever? Different social things come up for each of us when we consider being nature instead of culture. So write down a list of bad things that would happen if you were to be your true self. And in every case, it will include the disapproval or pushback of another human being or group of human beings. Okay? So write that down a few times. I mean, a few things. And then look at the list. I would upset my mother. Everybody would think I was a loser. My spouse would be angry with me. All right? Then ask yourself this question. Are these things the price of my soul? Jesus, who was Jewish and Christian, as it turns out, in a very weird way, and whom we celebrate in various bizarre fashions throughout the world today by giving away chocolate eggs, which apparently was an obsession of Jesus. But what we're going to do is follow what he said, or was attributed with, which is, what does it profit you if you gain the whole world and lose your own soul? Is that list enough to buy your soul? And in his case, I'm going to heal people on the Sabbath. Ha ha! He got nailed to a tree and killed. Okay, apparently being who he was so important to him that even though he knew they were going to come after him when he went to Jerusalem, he did it anyway. I've had times in my life where I knew people would react badly to me. I knew it. And I knew that if I did not do certain things, I would lose my soul. Writing my second memoir, Leaving the Saints, about leaving Mormonism, was a really good example. I knew that so many people I loved were going to hate me forever, and they do. Oh, darlings, they do. And should I have sold my soul for their approval? So I'm not saying that this is a light thing. I'm not saying tweak your life and all will be well. I'm saying we sell our souls for approval. And when we buy back our souls, sometimes we buy it back at the price of conflict or loss or disconnection temporarily, although I think a true soul connection with self is what connects with the soul of others. But on this level, we may lose things, but we gain our own souls. So that's my little speech for today. And I'm sorry it was a long one, but I was having solemn thoughts. I want to know what your questions are about your own, how you've sold your own souls, and how to buy that back, and how to do it without destroying your children, and how to do it. I hope you're a little bit scared right now, but also exhilarated, because when you write that down and say, am I going to sell my soul for my boss's approval, for my mother's approval? It takes you right to the brink. You know that poem? Go to the edge, no, we will fall. Go to the edge, no, we will fall. Go to the edge, no, we will fall. They went to the edge. He pushed them and they flew. I paraphrase. But that's the kind of experience we have on a spiritual path. And the moment we say, no, it's absolutely worth it. I'm not going to change anything to regain my soul because I'm afraid of other people's disapproval. That tears us from our integrity and we lose our spiritual root, which is connection to the sense of truth and response to that in preference to all other things. So if you have formulated a question, put it on up.
Martha, our special technology to pop the question on the screen isn't working, so I'm going to read the questions out.
Perfect.
But I will do so from off screen, so let me know if you can't hear me.
Okay.
So Carol asks, Martha, what if you have despair and longing for something you can't control, i.e. deep loneliness, longing for a partner, and the problem isn't people's judgment of me for being lonely, but that I can't see a way out?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. I'm so sorry you feel that way. But if you look at the deep loneliness and you look, I remember having a client who had no one in his life, and I just ached with loneliness on behalf of him. And he tried so hard, and we worked together for a long time. And I used to think, I can't cope with the amount of people who wish me well. Like, it's, how do you live and not have all these people around you? And what I saw was that he had a terrible fear of rejection. And his terrible fear of rejection made him afraid to risk reaching out, even energetically. So to reach out, even over the internet, like coming here today is a reaching out. Asking that question, being vulnerable is a way to reach out. So you've already begun. But I've watched with not just that client, but hundreds of clients, where I see the doors closed. And I see that it's fear that keeps them closed. And the fear, you'll find it if you sit alone in a room for an hour. It will be that people won't love you. You'll love them, you'll want to connect. That yearning will become an actual physical thing where, oh my God, now I could be connected to someone. And the fear of losing it will drive you back into a shell. And guess what? If you go vulnerable and you put yourself out there, you will have rejection experiences. However, you will gain your own soul, and you may have, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, you may have 20 rejections and only get one real friend. Guess what? One real friend is a wealth. One real friend is what's waiting for you, and then two real friends, and then three. And the less afraid you are, the more you just bring people in, bring people in, bring people in. But you're starting right now. You've already done it. Admitting your despair, admitting what you want, asking for help, and then starting to reach out in turtle steps. That's the way. You're already opening the door. You're going to get a sense at a certain point that you have control of that door. And when you open it, in floods what you've prayed for. I like to say one further thought. I may have said this before. Everything you prayed for in your whole life has been answered. Yes, absolutely. Here you go. Got it. But the force only sends your special presence, everything you've prayed for or asked for in your heart, to the real address of the real you. And that is your true self in peace. That is your true self unafraid. It's a big house labeled peace. And everything you've ever prayed for was mailed to that address as soon as you prayed. But if you never go home to peace, you'll never collect. You'll never find the stuff. It's all there for you. So really focus on examining your fear, giving it permission to exist. You don't stop negative emotions by pushing back against them. You give them permission to exist. You say, sit down at the table, fear. Sit down at the table, loneliness. I have space for you. And the person giving permission is your real self, and it lives in peace. And once you go there, booyah. People, friends, lovers, everything you want. Yes.
Okay, Linda Krantz asks, how do you take the first step?
The first step is, it's so fortunate because it's always literally right in front of you. Remember that one first step, and the one I suggested today, is doing absolutely nothing. I put this in the Joy Diet too, a book I wrote. Right now, if you don't have a strong drive to do something, don't do anything. But do get quiet and see if those emotions are in there pushing you to fight injustice in whatever way, pushing you to reach out in your loneliness, pushing you to create something, even though it's terrifying that it may go nowhere and mean nothing to anybody. In the quiet, below the emotion, is the instruction for the next step. And it will always be small, and it will always be now. It might feel big, but it will always be, if you're supposed to write a book, write a paragraph. If you're supposed to get a circle of friends, write an email or join the gathering room and reach out. Small, small. It will always be small, and it will add up to something huge. The journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath your feet.
Okay, we have Martha, who asks, Martha, when I put myself in the place of leaving my soul-sucking job, I come into an energy of joyful groundlessness. Wow. Now, how to trust this new and unknown space?
Oh my God, it's so appropriate that Martha is talking to Martha here. Because this is what I do. I lose trust in that every day, and I find my way back to trust in it every day since I left my soul-sucking job when I was 29 years old. And I'm really, really old now. I'm like 32. I'm 103. But this is how it feels to me. We're not meant to be able to sustain that trust. The world is set up to frighten us. And the reason it's set up to frighten us is that it is a gymnasium of the soul. So if I've said this before, I apologize, but it's like this. Find your way into trust, hold trust, gets too hard, drop it. Find your way back into trust again, hold it, gets too hard, drop it. Like lifting weights, over and over, we push back up to that upright position. The point is not to get the weight up there and stay in trust forever, because it's the strength we get from falling down and getting up that we take out of the gym. That's the reason we go there, not to put weights in the air, but to get strong. So the way back to trust is I sit down with a pencil and paper and I write a list of every time things went right for me. I write to my guardian angel, and then I write a letter back. I did that last night, and the guardian angel was so much more like enlightened than I am. And I could have totally been making it up. But if you write to those forces and write back, they give you lots of trust. And these practices done over and over make you very, very strong. So you can lift more things and be even more afraid. Because that's the way it works.
Lisi asks, is there anything I can tell myself to soothe myself when the terror of rejection comes on?
Yes. My friend Liz Gilbert, she writes letters to love all the time. And then love writes back. So she sits down and the first thing she writes is, I need you. And then she becomes love, and love always says, I'm right here. And then she says, I'm really scared and I feel mad and blah, 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 blah. And love answers her. And sometimes it says, here's the thing you should do. But most of the time it says something really simple, like, you're not warm, honey. How about a blanket? Or how about a cup of tea? Very small things where there's love coming to you from the environment to the animal. Because the thing that's afraid is the animal. And so these small caretaking things, when you know they're coming from love, are very, very soothing. And then going into the voice of love so that you can write those words puts you in touch with the infinite. And then everything's much, much better.
Okay, Kat Henke has a question that references some of your work, so we might need to back up a bit, but she asks, how do you keep being a present and supportive mom when you're in the messy post-caterpillar, pre-butterfly space?
This is what you do. You don't lie to your children. You show up as you are. This is the whole thing about enlightenment. It means showing up as you are and giving everything permission to be. And you realize that what's holding you and giving permission is the part that is already enlightened. And the kids are much closer to their truth than we are. They know. I mean, look back on your own childhood. You know that your parents were crazy. We all know our parents are crazy. You think your kids haven't got you figured out? I remember one time when I just had dental surgery, and I was trying to be so enlightened. And I got up to get the kids breakfast, and this was in Phoenix, so I was wearing just a t-shirt and my underwear. And I went into the kitchen, and a stitch broke in my mouth, and I started bleeding into my mouth, and it made me pass out. And I was just lying there on the floor waiting to regain consciousness, and my 2 daughters came in for breakfast. And they just sat down and started eating. And then one of them said to the other, "She is a freaking wreck." And the other one said, "It's just not breakfast if your mother's not lying on the floor in her underwear." In other words, they knew I was melting down. They knew I was a complete basket case. But as long as I told them the truth, they still felt safe. And that's what love does. It doesn't pretend that nothing bad is ever happening to us. It says, you are safe anyway, because I'm always going to tell you the truth, and I will never stop loving, and I am never gone. I am always right here. Give yourself permission to be a mess. You become the permission giver, and everyone knows that they're safe in that. Yeah.
Great question here from Sarah Cloyd. How do you show up as you are when you're not sure who you are?
You show up as, I don't know who the hell I am, which in Asia is called don't know mind, and is considered the enlightened state. I don't know. Ram Dass gave this speech where he'd gone up to a woman in a supermarket, one of the clerks, like 12-year-old clerks. And he said to something like, "Where can I find the LSD?" or whatever Ram Dass shopped for. And she looked at him with these huge eyes, and she said, "I don't know." And he said it was like he was enlightened in that moment, because her not knowing was so like, wow, I have no idea where the LSD is. And it could be anywhere. And so there was this freshness. There was this, I don't know what's going to happen next. It could be anything. And enlightened minds, enlightened people like Byron Katie that I know, live that way all the time. It's like, what's going to happen next? But instead of being like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? I need to know what's going to happen next. The animal, the inner lizard, wants to know what's going to happen next. But here's the truth. No one ever knows what's going to happen next. Pema Chodron says, what's going to happen to us in the next hour is as unknown to us as what will happen at the moment of our own death. I told that to a friend. I called a friend to read her that, and she said, "You are the angriest person I have ever met," because she didn't like it. But my point is, if you trust love, if you write to love and say, "Have you got me?" it will always write back and say, "I'm right here, never left, never went an inch." And then you say, "What will happen?" And love will say, "You don't know, but you're going to like it." And you'll say, "But a lot of bad things happen." And love will say, "Yes, but they're really all happening for you, not to you. Go home to peace, and you'll find all the presents." That'll be something. Yeah.
Great question here from Jonathan Foxwell.
Hi, Jonathan.
He says, "Hi, Martha. The opposition to my trust seems to be a doubt that I am escaping from my life in a kind of denial. I've lost him. What do you do when your bliss feels like you are running away? I don't want to run from my troubles."
Yeah, I did a lot of that. Like, it was great to meditate like 3 hours a day for a year and not ever talk to anyone. And then I felt the compulsion to act arise in me. In Expecting Adam, I described it as having puppeteers moving me. And they feel benevolent, and it actually feels like my true self. So it's not like my free will is taken away. But suddenly I was turned around and moved back into relationships with people. And it taught me to carry that bliss into a different situation. So I got really good at sitting alone in a room. Now my challenge, and I think I may have to end with this because we're close to the half hour, but this is the big deal. When you get to the point where there's nothing better than sitting alone in a room and enjoying the bliss of being, go hang out with humans and try. I challenge you to stay in that place. Boom! Yeah, it gets much more exciting. Go watch the news today. Oh boy, I don't know if I can lift this. Yeah, it's all just a higher level of exercise. And so the force will take you in and out, in and out. a cycle of rest and play, blossoming and staying fallow. And when you are your true self and you're not giving up your soul to please other people, it will always take you to the perfect next step. So you are safe, you are loved, don't sell your souls, and be back here next time at the same bat time, because this is super fun. Mwah!